Good morning. I had 2 abortions. One was in 1977, the other in 1980. I was promoted and transferred from a small town in the state of Washington by the name of Moses Lake. And I transferred to the big city of Seattle, away from the watchful eyes of my parents. I made some bad choices with my newfound freedom, and it wasn't long before I found myself pregnant. I decided on abortion because I was moving up the career ladder in the federal government, and I wasn't making enough money to support a child. Plus, of course, I didn't want my mom and dad to find out. 3 years later, I found myself in the same position. But this time, I decided to keep the baby. Although I was still single and no longer with the father, I had reached a salary where I could afford to have the child. And I was actually excited about the prospect of being a mother. I was so enthusiastic that I shared the pregnancy with my parents. Sadly, they weren't pleased and convinced me to abort, fearing that being an unwed mother would affect my future career advancement and also stain our family's reputation. The first abortion was performed by an OB/GYN, and he actually invited 2 male interns into the room to observe the abortion as a teaching moment. I didn't protest. I was too intimidated, and I was too embarrassed to say no. The second one was at Planned Parenthood. That doctor was just as unsympathetic and matter of fact. After both abortions, I walked away feeling dirty, humiliated, and empty. I can still hear the sound of the vacuum. I can still feel the tugging that took the lives of my children. I used booze and sex to escape the emotional pain, and I convinced a doctor to give me a tubal ligation at the age of 30, subconsciously punishing myself for the abortions. I didn't deserve to be a mother. I eventually hit my alcoholic and psychological bottom, thinking suicide was the only escape, and I ended up in a mental institution. When asked by the admitting psychiatrist why I wanted to die, I told him I was already dead inside. I just wanted to finish the job. Even after years of sobriety and therapy, I was still an emotional wreck. It was only after attending a healing retreat for women who have had abortions, I had come to the understanding that all the self-destructive behavior was a result of the guilt and shame. I took away the lives of my children. I eliminated them, not just from my life, but from the lives of their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents, their aunts, and their uncles. I will always carry the regret of aborting Matthew and Sarah. But my way of honoring them is speaking out in hopes of preventing others from making the same mistake I did. And that's why I am silent no more.